All right, so go ahead and get your notes titled and dated. We're going to be adding and subtracting numbers that are written in scientific notation. All right, so the first problem is 9.3 times 10 to the third minus 6.5 times 10 to the third. In order to be able to add or subtract numbers that are written in scientific notation, they have to already have the same exponent. If they don't have the same exponent, then we can't add or subtract them, okay? All of the problems, though, should already have the same exponent. So this part of our answer is going to be the same. So we're going to just bring that over into our final answer because they basically are like scientific notation numbers because they have the same exponent. We're going to bring that over into our answer. So then we are going to take our leading coefficients and we're going to actually complete the math problem. So if I take 9.3 minus the 6.5, like it asked me to do, I get 2.8, and then we already have our times 10 to the third. Now, the one thing that you have to make sure of with your final answer is that it is correctly written in scientific notation. So remember, this leading term has to be between 1 but less than 10. So between 1 and 10 but less than that 10. So since 2.8 follows that rule, that's going to be our final answer. 2.8 times 10 to the third. Okay, so let's look at another one. So if I have 3.8 times 10 to the negative fifth plus 2.7 times 10 to the negative fifth, I'm going to go ahead and bring over my exponent and my base of 10. And then I have to add my leading coefficient. So I'm going to take 3.8 plus that 2.7, and I get 6.5. So the final question that you should make sure of, and you should ask yourself, is that 6.5 times 10 to the negative fifth, is that correctly written in scientific notation? And since this 6.5 is between 1 and 10, it's correct. If it's not between 1 and 10, then we're going to have to manipulate the numbers a little bit. And we'll look at a couple problems that will do that here in just a second. Remember that you can always go back and rewind and pause if I'm going too fast for you. Okay, so same process. So these are the same, so I can go ahead and add them and bring them into my final answer. So I have 6.3 plus 3.9, and I get 10.2. Now, this 10.2 is breaking my scientific notation rules because it's greater than 10. So guys, we have to change this so it is correctly written in scientific notation. Okay? So we have to change this leading number. So since it is greater than 10, we're going to move this decimal so that it is in the correct spot. So that number is now going to be 1.02. Guys, if I change my leading term, I have to change my exponent. And since this was greater than 10, we add 1 to the exponent when we change it. So I would add 1 to that 5 so that I have 6. And then this is going to be my final answer. If my leading number is less than 1, then I would be subtracting 1 from our exponent. And we'll do one like that in a second, and then we'll write out the rule. We'll write out that rule here in a second. So let's look at this one. So I'm going to have 10 to the 6th in my final answer. And I'm going to take 8.2 minus 7.4. And I get 0.8. 0.8 is not between 1 and 10. So I'm going to have to manipulate that number so that it falls into that range. So I would need to move this decimal so it's behind the 8. So that my leading number is 8 times 10. And since this was less than 1, then we're going to subtract 1 from the exponent. So 6 minus 1 is 5. So my final answer is 8 times 10 to the 5th. So over here on the side, I'm going to write out those rules one more time for you. So when we are looking at the leading term, if it is greater than 10, then we're going to change it and add 1 to the exponent. If it is less than 1, then we're going to change it and subtract 1 from the exponent. Again, if you need to pause it so that you can get those rules written down, those are the rules that we're going to follow whenever we add, subtract, multiply, or divide. So those are extremely important to have memorized. So the question you should always ask yourself is that leading term following the rules for scientific notation? If it's not, then we need to figure out if we're going to add 1 or subtract 1, depending on if it's greater than or less than our requirements. So I'm going to leave those rules up there while we go through these next couple. So we'll do 2 more. So again, we're going to keep this the same in our answer. So we have times 10 to the 7th. And then I'm going to take 4.6 plus 8.8. And you have to show your work on all of these. So we get 13.4 times 10 to the 7th. Now 13 is greater than 10. So we're going to follow the greater rules on this. So we have to change the leading term. So I'm going to have to move that decimal so that it's between the 1 and the 3. And then I'm going to have to add 1 to the exponent. So the exponent's going to become an 8. All right, I'll put one more up here for us to go through. Oops. (6.6) times 10 to the negative 2nd minus 5.7 times 10 to the negative 2. So I'm going to keep these the same. So times 10 to the negative 2nd. And then I'm going to take 6.6 minus 5.7. And I get 0.9. Since 0.9 is less than 1, we need to change it so that it's between 1 and 10. And then I'm going to subtract 1 to the exponent. Now you have to be careful. Integer rules will apply here. So you're going to take negative 2 minus 1, and we get negative 3 for our exponent. All right, and so that is how you add or subtract numbers that are written in scientific notation. Again, if you need to go back and rewind or rewatch anything, then feel free to do so.